My husband lost his job in 2022 and we slashed our budget down to the bare necessities. You never think it's going to happen to you until it does. So here are the basic necessities you need to have in your budget, whether you encounter a job loss or you're just really trying to cut to the bare minimum so you can work on paying off debt or building an emergency fund faster. If you're new here, hey, I'm Marissa and welcome to the channel. Here we talk about how you can enjoy life and accomplish financial goals through the use of a budget, and I share lots of budgeting content here. So let's just get back to the basics of the things that you need to make sure you're covering every month in your budget. First off is your rent or mortgage. Obviously, having a roof over your head is going to be a necessity. Though the hard thing I know is that this is probably the biggest expense you have in your budget. If your rent is late, you may be subject to late fees, and if you don't pay at all, then this could potentially lead to an eviction. And if you're a homeowner and have a mortgage, if your mortgage is late, then you also may be subject to some late fees, and after 120 days, the foreclosure process then begins. Which I know the thought of that sounds really scary, and this is why I always talk about having an emergency fund so that you can make sure you don't get to this point. But this is such an important expense to make sure that you're covering every single month. Again, I know it's hard because this is going to be the biggest thing in your budget, but if you do ever find yourself in a tricky situation, it's a great idea to reach out to either your landlord if you're a renter or your mortgage loan servicer and see what options are available. The second thing to make sure you include in your budget every month is insurance. Even if you're just trying to cover your basic necessities, life insurance should definitely be on that list. If something happened to you during a financially stressful time, things would be even more stressful for your family without life insurance. If someone else relies on your income and you pass away unexpectedly, term life insurance is there to help support their needs. When we found out that we were expecting our first baby, one of the very first things we did was look into term life insurance. Knowing that we'd have a child to financially support and thinking about what would happen if we weren't here, or even if just one of us wasn't here, really put things into perspective. Now, some employers give a benefit of a certain amount towards life insurance, which is great, but it's also important to have additional life insurance outside of your employer, because if you lose a job, then you also lose that insurance. If you have children, you know that it is a major financial cost, and maybe you think, what would happen if you or your spouse wasn't there? If you own life insurance at the time you pass, it can help ensure that your children will have financial support to grow and live the life you want for them. It often feels like life insurance has been confusing, expensive, and time consuming, but Ethos focuses on creating a seamless customer experience with an entirely online application process, and I want to thank Ethos for sponsoring today's video. There are no medical exams or blood tests, and Ethos is able to cover people in minutes rather than weeks. You just need to answer a few health questions online. Ethos is also affordable. Spending 10 minutes filling out your application could protect your family for as little as $10 a month. According to Investopedia, each year that you wait to purchase life insurance, your premiums could increase in cost by 8 to 10%. So the sooner you buy life insurance, the more affordable it's likely to be. Term life insurance is great because it's so affordable and it helps those who rely on you financially should something happen to you. So if you're interested in learning more about Ethos or you're interested in getting your free life insurance quote, you can check out the link down in the description box below. And another insurance that should be on your list is medical insurance. You never know when an unexpected medical event will occur, and the last thing you need is more financial burden from an unexpected medical expense. Now, if you're unemployed from your previous job, you can extend your medical coverage through Cobra, or you can check out Marketplace for your different insurance options. And did you know that you can also use a medical insurance broker to help you find the best plan? I didn't even know this existed, but unfortunately became aware of it when my husband lost his job at the end of 2022. We had our whole family insurance through my husband, and at the time we had kids who were 2.5 and 6 months old, and we obviously needed to have medical insurance. When my husband was unfortunately part of that mass layoff, they did extend his insurance coverage for an extra month, which ended November 30th, and my 6-month-old son ended up getting RSV, and we had to spend a few days in the hospital at the end of November, which we were eventually discharged on November 30th, right at the end of that insurance coverage. For us in our situation, it made more financial sense for us to wait and enroll in Cobra if we needed to retroactively, even though Cobra can be very expensive, but a much cheaper cost compared to having to pay for medical bills out out of pocket. I can't imagine what more of a burden it would have been if we went through our whole RSV hospital stay if we didn't have insurance at the time. The next necessity for your budget are your utilities. Things like keeping on your electric, for your lights, your water, and natural gas. These are just basic necessities of making sure that your home is being heated and you have running water. Now there are other utilities that people might consider, things like internet or even your cell phone plan. Now those aren't true necessities, but we did keep those in our budget when we encountered my husband's job loss for 2 months because he needed internet to be able to find more jobs to apply for, and keeping our phones on was also important. It's obviously not a living necessity, but in today's day and age, it kind of is a necessity. The next necessity would be food. Now I did say that rent or your mortgage is probably the highest expense in your budget. For a lot of people, food is a close runner-up, if not even more. Obviously, you need food to survive, but we're talking basic food. This does not include eating out, and there are some other great ways that you can save money on food. First, by meal planning, creating a plan for your week, knowing which meals you're going to make and when. And as you're sitting there to fill out your meal plan, check your pantry and fridge first. See what things you have on hand that are going to be expiring soon, and make meals around those ingredients so that you limit your food waste. Other meals that you should plan for in your meal plan are ones with few ingredients. The best way to save money on food is to limit your amount of food waste. So making meals with fewer ingredients means you're less likely to have a bunch of food waste from using, half an onion or 1 clove of garlic when you had to buy the whole bunch to make the meal. You also might be surprised how much food you actually have on hand in your fridge, freezer, or pantry, and you can just eat through that food if you're in a pickle for a short amount of time. Once or twice a year, we kind of like to do this and go through our pantry and fridge and freezer and just eat up all of those random things that we may have there, and it does help save on our grocery budget. And the fifth necessity in your budget would be transportation. If you encounter a hardship or you're trying to cut expenses, obviously you still need to get around town, whether that's to job interviews or just doing life like going grocery shopping. So gas in your car is a necessity. So is probably having a car. But that doesn't mean you need a brand new car. The 2006 Honda Accord might not be the most fun thing to drive, but if it gets you from point A to point B in a more stressful financial time, then that's totally fine. I drove my 98 Camry for a long time while we were paying off debt, building our emergency fund, and even saving for a down payment on our house. And you know what? It was a great little reliable car. And when the time came, we bought a new to us used 2013 Toyota Corolla. And that was a huge step up. Also, another thing to consider might be going down to just one car, even just for a season. My husband and I recently did this in February because we realized that we just don't need 2 cars. My husband now works remotely from home. I stay home with the kids, and there just hasn't been a need for us to have 2 cars. So we went down to 1, and it's worked out just fine. I know that can't be the case for everyone, but consider if that might work for you in your household. So whether you've unfortunately lost a job or you're just trying to trim your budget down to the bare bones to work on other big financial goals, those are the necessities that you can expect to spend money on every single month. And yes, there are still ways that you can save money on those things. And my hope is that before long, you will be back ready to incorporate those other fun things into your budget. My husband was only unemployed for 6 weeks, and yes, it was a scary time, but we were thankfully able to weather through that storm for that short period of time by cutting things back in our budget, and then we were quickly back on our feet. And as a reminder, don't forget to check out Ethos Life Insurance with the link down in the description box below. And with that, I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.